With its focus on technology, low-stakes storyline, and relatively graphic PG-13 violence, Bloodshot is a very different superhero flick. But there's one area in which director Dave Wilson was clearly inspired by Bloodshot's higher-profile peers: the Easter eggs. In Bloodshot, the namesake hero comes by his name rather simply. The top-secret program that created him is simply called Project Bloodshot. Hey, it fits. Not only has Ray Garrison's blood been replaced by an army of nanites giving him superpowers, but he really likes to shoot people. That's also simple, but it works. In the comics, however, the organization that gives Ray his powers goes by a different name. While one reboot calls the clandestine organization Project Lazarus, it's usually known as Project Rising Spirit. In the first volume of Bloodshot, Project Rising Spirit was a secret group based in Japan. In more recent interpretations, it's a contracting group that often works with the US military and has ties to the Sect, a secret society so big that it includes almost every other secret society on Earth. Well, you know how in the movie the company behind Bloodshot is called RST? That's short for Rising Spirit Tech. Sure, Bloodshot the movie made a few adjustments to the setup. The company is now run by Guy Pearce's Emil Harding, for example, and it does a lot more work with prosthetics than it used to. But this is still the Rising Spirit fans know and love. Early in Bloodshot, before he realizes that everything he knows is a lie, Ray Garrison is dead set on taking down Martin Axe, the man who he thinks killed his wife.
You can't get in, Kenny. No chance. Oh, man.
If you've heard that name and thought it sounded like something straight out of a 90s comic book, well, you were right. Martin Axe, or often just Axe, has been around since 1992, making him even older than Bloodshot himself. In the comics, Axe isn't a sadistic terrorist or a former RST employee. He's actually more of a computer nerd. Originally, Axe was a Psyot, an evolved human with psychic powers who could communicate with machines. On his debut, Axe was a straight-up villain who was obsessed with getting his hands on all the groundbreaking tech he could find, including Bloodshot's nanites, which he briefly stole. Later versions of the character have come down a little more on the side of a well-meaning rebel. He's out to stop high-level corruption, not steal machines, and often helps out the Renegades, a group of rebel Psyots who fight against the Harbinger Foundation. He also often goes by @X because this is still a Valiant Comics property we're talking about here. 90s style silliness is just part of the deal. In Bloodshot the movie, Bloodshot looks like Vin Diesel. Handsome, bald, ripped. You know the look. Diesel is striking, but he's still a normal guy. In the comics, however, Bloodshot is anything but. Not only does he have hair, but his skin is white, his eyes are red, and more often than not, he doesn't wear a shirt, showing off a giant red circle on his chest. Canonically, the mark is kind of like a big scar. As seen in the comic Ray Zero, Rising Spirit pumped the nanites into Bloodshot's body using a giant device stuffed with needles. The circle is basically the mark that the machine leaves behind. An identical device is used in the film too, but it doesn't leave a mark, probably because it would look a little silly in live action. Bloodshot pays tribute to the hero's iconic look in a few different ways though. The way that Diesel's chest starts to glow red as the nanites in his body heat up is the most obvious, but it's not the only one. Even more subtly, whenever there's a scene with Ray on RST's operating table, it opens with a shot from above. If you pay attention, you'll notice a circular medical device on Diesel's chest, right where that red circle should have been. Believe it or not, but man without memories who is repeatedly manipulated into killing the people framed for killing his wife is not an original concept. 20 years before Bloodshot applied that idea to a superhero story, a young director named Christopher Nolan turned out a taut crime thriller called Memento that dealt with the exact same subject.
Stay focused. Find a pen. I gotta write this down. Gotta write it down.
The Bloodshot parallels are obvious, but they're not accidental. Director Dave Wilson admitted that Memento was a major influence on Bloodshot in an interview with The Beat, but you don't have to do too much research to figure that out. Just look at Bloodshot's cast list. Guy Pearce, who starred as Leonard in Memento, is Bloodshot's main villain. Not that the movies are connected or anything, but there's no way that's just a coincidence. In terms of tone and aesthetics, Bloodshot feels a whole lot like Total Recall, Terminator, and RoboCop, but it only calls out one 80s hit directly, the beloved Eddie Murphy vehicle Coming to America. In the 1988 comedy, Murphy plays Akeem, crown prince of the fictional country of Zamunda, who travels to New York City to find a bride who loves him for himself, not for his royal title. In order to pull off the ruse, Akeem and his friend Semi pose as poor students and take working-class jobs. Naturally, hilarity ensues.
I have recently been placed in charge of garbage. Do you have any that requires disposal?
Anyway, that's what Bloodshot's sidekick Wilfred Wiggins is referring to when he sarcastically calls himself the Crown Prince of Zamunda. Oh, and by the way, while Wilfred mentions that he has a very comic book sounding name, which implies that Wilfred is some kind of reference himself, he's actually an original character who was created just for the film. Sorry, Easter egg hunters, you're gonna have to look a little harder. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about your favorite comic book movies are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.